Welcome on into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, running through the leaked and known pre-draft visits for the Browns, as each team can bring up to 30 players to the facility leading up to the NFL draft. And spoiler, the Browns are bringing in a lot of quarterbacks. And that alone is not a surprise. But I do think it gives us an indication for what the Browns' plan and strategy is in the first 2 days. Now, before we look at these names, help me continue to grow a little bit just as a YouTuber and my social media platforms. If you like the free content we provide, follow me over on Twitter. We have an Instagram account and, of course, right here at the Cleveland Browns Report by just clicking that subscribe button. So let's run through some of the pre-draft visits, and I'll kind of break them down into different sections. First things first, they brought in 5 quarterbacks, or are bringing in 5 quarterbacks. They brought in Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward a few weeks ago. Jaxson Dart, Jalen Milroe, and Tyler Shough, they're all coming in over the next couple of days, according to a handful of insiders. So let's focus on these 3 because Ward is going to the Titans, and the Browns have really cooled off on Shedeur, so we'll pull back on that throttle, and I want to ramp up these throttles right here because I think there's a very good chance that Dart, Milroe, or Shough could be the play for the Browns. Now, I don't want to make any definitive statements because you just don't know what other teams are going to do in the draft. But I will come as close as I can to making a definitive statement when I say pick 33 for the Cleveland Browns will be used on a quarterback in some way, shape, or form. Whether that means the Browns just open up round 2 by selecting a quarterback. We saw that a few years ago with Will Levis going to the Titans. Whether that means the Browns use pick 33 to trade back into round 1 to get a QB so they can get the 5th-year option on that guy. Or maybe they move back a couple of spots because another team is giving them an offer they can't refuse, and they are comfortable with 1 or 2 different quarterbacks. But right now, things are trending towards pick 33 will somehow be in play and used as an asset to acquire a quarterback. Now, if it means trading up in the draft, I think it's going to be in this range. If I could add one more rectangle, I'd add the Vikings at pick 24. I think 24 to 32 is very much in the sweet spot for the Browns to trade back into round 1 for a quarterback that they really, really like, and they don't want to risk him not falling to day 2, or they really, really like, and they actually like him a little bit more so that they were willing to give up some more draft capital to get that 5th-year option, which a lot of teams love to do for, quarterbacks and top-notch players. Now, the other possibility is trading back. And I'll say of the 3 scenarios, staying put, trading up, trading back, this one seems the least likely. I could only see the Browns doing this if the front office kind of has a smartest guy in the room mentality of, ooh, let's get a little bit risky here. Let's trade back 5, 6, 7 spots, and we're going to gamble that no one between us and 39 where the Bears are, or somewhere in that range, is going to take a quarterback. And so we can get some more draft capital and get the same player at 33. That's a risk. And I don't think it's a risk I would like the Browns to make. If they are confident and they have a verdict on which quarterback in day 2 they want to get, don't play with your food. I may not agree with the quarterback you want to select, but I will agree with, if you like that guy, don't half-ass it. Don't, let's see if we can move back, get some more picks, and get the same guy. I don't like that risk. Quarterback is too valuable to take that risk, in my opinion. If you're wishy-washy on a quarterback, then that's one thing. Trade back, and if he's there, okay, it was maybe meant to be, right? But if he's not there, it's not going to be the end of the world. But worst-case scenario, the Browns love Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shough, Jaxson Dart, and they're like, what if we trade back a couple of spots and get some more picks and still get him? That guy's taken. Those picks are not going to make up for that quarterback maybe having a great career elsewhere because you decided to get cocky. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit and still stay on the quarterback vein because The Athletic sends out this awesome kind of email blast 3 times a week, and they talked about the history of quarterbacks in round 1 of the draft and, more importantly, the first quarterback taken in the draft. And the last couple of years, it has not been good to be the first one in line. Look at the last few quarterbacks taken first in each draft. and then look to the right of the graphic and see who was the best quarterback in that draft, and you'll see what pick they were taken with. Bryce Young, I think at this point we can agree, is not QB1 from 2023. It is CJ Stroud. Kenny Pickett, not QB1. It's Brock Purdy in round 7. Trevor Lawrence, first quarterback taken, and I'll say the best quarterback from the 2021 class. I won't rule on the 2024 class after just one season. Joe Burrow and Kyler Murray, both taken first overall, both QB1s. Baker and Mitch, not so much. And we can go back a little bit further here. And in 2016, you had Jared Goff taken number 1. You could argue Jared Goff's better than Dak Prescott. That one's open for interpretation, actually. You can make a strong argument, but actually, I think you can make an argument that they're kind of the same in some ways. Anywho's, Jameis is number 1, but that's just a bad quarterback class looking back. And Bortles and Manuel, like those are guys who did not live up to the round 1 expectations. They were outplayed by some round 2 targets. So you're seeing a lot of red on the left. Now, what's funny is right before 2013, you had a run of whoever got the first quarterback made the right selection. Andrew Luck in 2012, Cam Newton in 2011. 10 was Bradford. I don't know who would have gone after Bradford that's been any good. So I'll put a pin in that one. Someone fact check me. And then 09 was Stafford. So for a while there, the NFL had a good consensus on who is the best quarterback, and the team that took the first quarterback got the best one. The last couple of years, like a decade now, it's a very low hit rate, which is good news for the Browns because they don't get the first quarterback in this draft. That's going to be Tennessee. So if history repeats itself, the Browns might kind of stumble into the best quarterback because it's a good thing not to go first in recent history. Now, of these 3 quarterbacks that the Browns could be looking at around pick 33, this is my preference order. I'll be honest, I put 1, 2, and 3 here. I really don't like any of them. But I got to rank them, otherwise I'm a coward. So I'm going to go with Jaxson Dart at 1, Jalen Milroe at 2, which is funny because I'm a hypocrite based on the way I talked about him 2 days ago on the channel. And then Tyler Shough at 3. I spent 5 minutes staring at my screen trying to decide who to put at 2 and who to put at 3. The reality is I don't think any of these 3 quarterbacks are going to amount to long-term starters in the league. I can't prove that. You can't prove against it. Time will tell. But I think Jaxson Dart's like a Gardner Minshew light. He'll probably be fun for a little bit, but I don't think any team's ever going to have him as a long-term starter. I don't think Jalen Milroe is going to be this next Jalen Hurts that people want him to be just because he went to Bama and he's athletic. No, the accuracy issues are way too glaring for me. The step back in his final year at Bama. And then Shough, he's 25 years old. He backed up Justin Herbert. He has 1 full season of healthy starting quarterback play under his belt, and we're just supposed to go off of that 1 year. That's too small of a sample size for me to go, that's the man I want to use the 33rd overall pick on. You want to take a project quarterback? Cool. That's round 3, like day 3 stuff. Not pick 33. Don't get the 3s mixed up. 33 is good. Day 3, not so good. This is day 3. Don't fool yourself on, we had a couple good highlight throws at Louisville. Sure. Did you see the lowlights? Because there are some unbelievable. It's almost as if like he's on Impractical Jokers and Sal and we'll go with Q, the 2 good ones, are in his ear saying, all right, now throw it to the other team in the most hysterical fashion possible. He's like, bet, I'll do it. So there's a lot of highlights and a lot of lowlights with Shough. But if you had to pick one, I'd go with Dart, but I really am not confident in any of these 3 guys right here. Switching gears a little bit from the quarterbacks they brought in, I want to look over some of the other players as well. Travis Hunter is the odds-on favorite to be the number 2 pick right now, so we've spent a lot of time talking about him. We'll kind of move on for a moment. But Will Campbell, Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, and Jalon Walker. We're going to put a pin in Carter for a second, but Campbell, Graham, and Walker, these are all guys they brought in when I think they wanted to know what would we do if we traded back from number 2. If a team fell in love with Shedeur Sanders and the Raiders called and gave us 2 future first-rounders to the point that we couldn't say no, even though we liked Carter or Hunter a lot for number 2, who would we get if we moved back 5 or 6 spots? So my preference would be I'd go Will Campbell, finally figure out your left tackle situation. Then I would say Jalon Walker is just going to be an incredible football player for a team. I think he'd be a lot of fun to have in Cleveland. And I'd go Mason Graham third. So that would be my ranking. But Abdul Carter, a part of this. A lot of these visits were from a few weeks ago. So don't look at this and go, oh, how timely now they're back in on Abdul Carter. No, the Browns and every other team that brings players in, they're just doing their jobs, right? They're trying to get a feel for the player. Sometimes these pre-draft visits are more for medicals. If there were some question marks like Abdul Carter after the combine, they want to get a closer look. So sometimes it's that. Sometimes it is, hey, while you're here, can you tell us about this teammate of yours and that teammate of yours so we can kind of kill two birds with one stone? And sometimes it's, we really want to use our draft pick on you, but we want to know more about you outside of just what we see on film and the stats. We want to know you as a player. Are you someone that's going to be a hard worker? And we want to get to know the person and not just the jersey number. Before we move on to the rest of today's show, quick shout out to our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is an awesome place to check out because prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. True story, last night I met up with one of my high school buddies' dads who was in town for work, and he wanted to go to the Stars game because they were in town, and he was like, yep, I just hopped on Game Time and saw it was $26. He ended up going to see one of the most incredible finishes in this entire NHL season with the Stars up 5-2 and the Canucks scoring 3 times in 60 seconds and then winning in overtime, and he would have missed that if he didn't use Game Time. So don't miss out on things like that with Game Time. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Now, looking over the other pre-draft visits, I will add really quickly, this is always a fluid list. So if you watch this video 48 hours from now, there's a very real chance that a name has been added. For example, since we started filming, Ian Rappaport put out a notification that Omar Norman Lott, the defensive tackle from Tennessee, visited the Browns. So we could add one more name to this list right here. But this list right here is a list of players I think the Browns could be looking at in day 2 to early day 3 of the draft. So it's always a good idea to extend beyond just what you want to do at round number 1, because often a team's drafts are deemed successful based on what they do from rounds 3 to 4. Now, if I had to highlight 3 players from this list, I'd include Omar Norman Lott because he's going to be an awesome pass rushing DT for a team. But the 3 guys that really jump out to me here that I would say have on your radar, running back Quinshon Judkins. It does not appear that the Browns are putting a lot of stock into going running back in round 2. That pains me. This ground game has been cheeks the last 2 seasons since Nick Chubb went down in Pittsburgh, and I would love for them to address it early in the draft. And I think they're going to wait until round 3. And Judkins could be in play for round 3. I also think him and Henderson can be all-time steals in this draft. I get slight Alvin Kamara vibes, not from a play style, but from a profile. Why was Alvin Kamara a 3rd-round pick and then so awesome for the Saints? Because at Tennessee, he split the workload with a guy named Jalen Hurd, who ended up flaming out over at Baylor, switching to receiver, and then going to the 49ers and always being injured. But the point is, Judkins, who was terrific at Ole Miss, transfers to Ohio State, big part of them winning a natty. Him and Henderson never got the opportunity to just be the bell cow back and put together more touches, more opportunities, more highlights. And they could fall to rounds 2 or 3 as a result, and that could be a steal for Cleveland. So the other player I want to take a look at, or 2, tight end Elijah Arroyo. David Njoku is entering the final year of that contract. So if the Browns want to find a replacement, they might go with a different tight end from the U. Plus, I just feel that they need to add a tight end. They don't have really any stable depth at that position right now. Jordan Akins is a free agent. I thought he played very well last season. They might bring him back still. But if not, I think Arroyo showed us in 2024 when healthy, he is capable of being a very good receiving tight end. nearly 600 yards with Cam Ward and 7 touchdowns. Knee injury is definitely a concern, caused him to miss a lot of 2022 and 2023, and that could be why they brought him in for a medical check during the pre-draft visit, but this is one name to watch for. The last guy I'll put on your radar is Oregon defensive tackle Derrick Harmon. Started off at Michigan State, transfers to Oregon, has a breakout 2024 season, extreme pass rush upside. And the trend right now, and the Browns showed us this trend, teams are looking for interior defensive linemen that can get to the quarterback. As passing goes up and running goes down, teams are starting to swap out your traditional run-stopping DT with pass-rushing DTs. And Harmon, who's over 300 pounds, had 5 sacks and 55 pressures in 2024. If you want proof of what I'm trying to talk about here, look what the Browns did in round 2 last year. They didn't take Mike Hall to be a tree stump in the middle of the defensive line. No, that was Siaka Ika's job, and that flamed out miserably. No, they got Mike Hall because the flashes he showed at OSU when it came to getting after the quarterback. And when you got a 300-pound-plus sea monster getting 5 sacks and 50-plus pressures, that's going to hop on teams' radar. So here are just a couple of names to watch for in day 2 of the draft, of the pre-draft visits the Browns had. All right, here are my predictions to kind of round out the video based on these pre-draft visits, what I think is going to happen. At pick number 2, all signs are pointing towards Travis Hunter. I still have this little bit of doubt just because the Browns love to move in the shadows, and it's strange that they just not even announced, which they didn't, but the word's out. They love Travis Hunter, and that's the pick at number 2. It's not really how the Browns operate, but then again, the Browns haven't had the second overall pick with Andrew Berry, so this is uncharted waters for them. But I'll go with Hunter at 2. Pick 33, it may be a trade up, it may be staying put, could be a trade back, but ultimately, it's going to be used on a quarterback, and I'm going to throw Jaxson Dart out there. There's a lot of connections between the Browns and Jalen Milroe. Tommy Reese, the Browns apparently have a little bit of an affinity towards Jalen Milroe. Once again, I remember hearing the same thing about Shedeur Sanders at the Combine, and all that was more or less smoke. I think Jaxson Dart is the best of the 3 quarterbacks, and I think the Browns are going to take the best of the 3 quarterbacks. And finally, not really draft related, but I think they are going to still wind up trading for Kirk Cousins from the Falcons, who are looking for a desperate team. And the Browns, I think, would look at their quarterback room and say, all right, with Kenny Pickett here and Jaxson Dart, let's add a little bit more stability and let's just pony up and get it done. So I'm not off this trail. I still think that's a play here. But here are my predictions. Screenshot this. Come back to me in a few weeks. Laugh at me if I'm wrong, which I probably will be, but here it is. Okay, let's pick a card and get you guys on your way. We have a live show, by the way. I always forget to mention, in a few hours, so come back then. Read, which card do you want to go with? Button's not working. You just tell me. Reed says 7 of hearts. I'm going to... No. Audible. 8 of hearts. You know what? I'll go with 7 of hearts. Put it at the bottom. 1 cut. No, you're so lucky. 2 of clubs. That would have been nightmare fuel. See you guys in a little bit.